Hello everybody. Today is Tuesday, May the 10th, 2021. My name is Shelly and you've reached my channel Proverbs 31:22. And on this channel I share about my stitching life, cross-stitch, quilting, some sewing. And welcome everybody. If you're new, I appreciate you coming and checking my channel out. If you want to keep up to date with me, just hit the subscribe button and you'll know whenever I post a new video. It'll come up in your subscription feed. And if you're returning, hello everybody. So this is the start of a new week of vlogs, and at the end of my last week's video, I talked about how I wasn't sure about this quilt right here being a baby quilt for someone that I'm making it for. I will, finish that quilt, but I'm not going to gift it to the person that I thought I was. So I did pull out my sew sampler boxes and picked a different one. So the one that I picked is, it's a paper piecing, which I'm not a huge fan of paper piecing, but Fat Quarter Shop has this pineapple foundation paper. And this is the quilt that it makes. And it uses Allison Glass's Sunprint fabrics, which or just pretty, really pretty. Very bright colors, the whole rainbow spectrum. So that's the one I'm going to do instead. Then I also have another baby quilt that I need to do for, these are both for my older daughter Kimberly's sisters-in-law. So one's expecting in October and one's expecting in December. So for the Mai Tai quilt is going to be for a baby girl. The other baby, they are not finding out the gender. So I just kind of looked through my sew sampler boxes and there were a couple of possibilities, but then I thought, I have all of this fabric left from when I made this Sew in Love quilt. I made this a couple of years ago for one of my sisters-in-law and brothers-in-law. And Fat Quarter Shop did the block of the month for this Aditya Sitar quilt. And they are very, very generous with their blocks of the month program. So, this bin right here was completely full of fabric. And so I figured I want to make something with some of these. So in the back of this book, they have a series of bonus quilts that basically just use one block that's in the sampler quilt and just repeat it. So I chose this one. There were several that I thought about. But I thought this one would, I really don't know why I chose this one, because it's small. Like the pieces are tiny, like you have a 3.5 inch square and then the rest of it is 1.5 inch squares. So I'm having to cut a bajillion 1.5 inch squares. But what I'm doing, I didn't have enough of any one fabric to do the backgrounds with. And I also, so I'm doing like I picked 4 different ones to do the background out of. And then I picked several reds, I think 4 reds, and then I think I'll have like 3 pinks to cut from. And so I'll make it sort of scrappy. So these are all the background pieces that I cut. And then yesterday I just barely got started on cutting the reds. It's a lot of cutting for, you know, it's 16 blocks for a little crib size quilt. But I should have enough, I should still have enough fabrics left to put some borders on if I want to make it a little bit bigger. And I probably can do a pieced backing with this fabric as well. So you get a lot of fabric in Fat Quarter Shop Block of the Month programs. So if you're ever thinking about doing one, never fear with Fat Quarter Shop. You definitely have plenty of fabric to complete it. So I worked on getting that cut yesterday. This morning I did have Quilt Guild, so I went and did that this morning. So I will spend some more time cutting, and don't ask me why I decided to start cutting the one that's due in December before the one that's due in October. I just, you know, it's just part of that creative process where, you know, you have something in your head and you're looking at something and you're like, okay, I want to cut this up. So this one won't be very much cutting at all. I'll have to cut the little, the charm squares is just like cutting rectangles. And then I'll have to cut, you know, several different, like a B, C, and D pieces of the background. But the blocks themselves, the charm squares is just the piece A. Now I'll need 144 of them, but those will go pretty fast because it's, you know, charm squares. So I worked on that yesterday, and I will work on cutting. I'll probably finish cutting the red and pink one before I move on to the Mai Tai one. So what else did I work on? I feel kind of a little out of breath. I don't know why. So I did work on Jesse Watson. I'm doing a little rotation with my stitch-alongs, and so it was this one's turn again. So I'm working on part number 2. This is part of Raspberry Stitcher's autism awareness stitch-along. And so she's broken the chart down into 12 pieces. And so this month we're working on part 2. So I did the berry border and then started on the inside. When I did the B, I had a little bit of that thread left, so I came down here and did the J. And then when I did the O, the next border is that same color, so not border, but divider. So I did that, finished using my thread there. So this is stitched on 32 count wood shelt linen in the color white chocolate. And I'm using the called for DMC flosses, 2 strands over 2 threads. And these are the flosses. This red is just absolutely, I think this is like my favorite red. It's so pretty. Every time I get to stitch with it, I just drool a little bit. So I got that stitched on. And then I did work on Elizabeth Weston. This is my daily focus piece. I stitch some on this every day. And this is another Hands Across the Sea. I'm using the called for DMC flosses. And I'm stitching this on a piece of 36 count linen that was hand dyed specifically for this pattern by Devon of Strawberry Lane on Etsy. And her channel here on FlossTube is Hoops and Needles. She's the first person I saw stitching this, and I absolutely fell in love with the colors and everything. So I wasn't stitching on it regularly. And then the last time I stitched on it, it's like, I don't want this to take 1,000 years. So I have a plan of doing 1 page a month. The pattern's 30 pages, so it's still going to take quite a while. But anyway, I got these parts done last night. And I had to catch up because I didn't stitch Sunday at all. Saturday or Sunday on it, I don't think. So maybe Saturday. I don't remember. No, not Saturday. So, so I had to get caught up. But I was able to. And then let's see. The other piece that I stitched on yesterday for Merry Monday theme was this little snowman ornament. And I didn't pull the sheet on it, so I'm not sure. It's from a magazine. But this is what I got done. I worked last night on his face. And that's on 14 count opalescent Aida using the using DMC flosses. Some called for, some my own choices. 2 strands. So let me look at the Readly app and I can tell you what magazine it's from. It's from Just CrossStitch December 2020 issue. And then I worked on another magazine piece. And that is Daybreak, Winter Daybreak, little pillow. And this is what I got done on it. So I got a good bit done of that gray part, but I'm not up to date on where I want it to be with it, but that's okay. This is on a piece of 28 count even weave, using DMC flosses, 2 strands over 2 threads. So that's what I stitched on. And that's the opening to my week, and I will see y'all next time. Good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, May the 11th, and I am here to update you on my stitching and a few other little things that I've been forgetting to talk about. A couple of pieces of family news. Our daughter, Kimberly, who just graduated from UNA, she had applied for a position with the Army Corps of Engineers in Huntsville, and she got an email yesterday letting her know that she's going to have a phone interview with them on Friday, so wishing her the best on that. God's will be done, you know, that sort of thing. And then also this week, our older grandson, Nathan, who is about to be 13, I don't understand how my baby can be having a almost teenager. It floors me how fast the time is going. But anyway, he is trying out for the local schools here in Lauderdale County, their basketball team. So there's only 4 spots available on that team. So um, he went yesterday for his first, I guess, workout. I don't know exactly how it goes, and has to go Thursday and Friday again this week. And then I don't know, do they decide right away, or is it, a while next week, or I don't know. But anyway, those are 2 things that are happening in our family. So I did want to let you know that I do have a blog. I was pretty faithful about updating it quite a while ago, like years ago. Never did take it down. It's still been up. I did a post, I think, back in January, kind of thinking that I was going to get it up and running again. But that kind of fizzled out. But I started doing a post one day last week, the day when I felt like utter crap. I did a post that day, and so I am hoping to keep that going. We'll see how that goes, but I really would like to have another place online just where I, write a little bit more, share a little bit more, like pictures and things like that. So that is going, and it will be linked down below in the description box. So, I did have a question from a viewer on my last video asking about the string quilt. If I had a pattern or a tutorial or anything that I went by. I don't. I took a class with the Alabama Folk Art Association a few years ago, and they did, a little workshop on string quilts. So I did look online this morning and found a couple of tutorials, which I will link below. One of them is from Missouri Star Quilt Company, which, they have excellent tutorials. And then the other one was from Prairie Point Quilt and Fabric Shop. So the Missouri Star Quilt one, the way they do it on a foundation paper, which they sell. They sell like 10-inch squares of foundation paper that you can do these blocks on. The Prairie Point Quilt and Fabric Shop, they do theirs on a muslin foundation. So, and that's, those are both viable ways to do it. I used graph paper was what I had, and it tears really easily. I haven't even had to shorten my stitch length to get it to tear, out, which is usually they tell you to shorten your stitch length when you're doing paper piecing because it's easier to tear the paper. But I've been doing these string quilts as leaders and enders on my other quilts, which I don't want to shorten the stitch length on. So I've just been doing it at my normal 2.0. And I haven't had any problems whatsoever tearing off the graph paper. So Missouri Star Quilt Company, the one that they have on the wall behind her while she's doing the tutorial, she does like to put a solid white or, tone on tone white down the center of each one of her blocks. And that just gives the overall quilt, that kind of lattice look, which is fine. I've seen people do it in black, which is really pretty. I didn't do that on mine. I mean, this is a little honey bun that I had, which is 1.5-inch strips. There weren't any solid or tone on tone colors. So, I could have maybe done these all in the centers, but I mean, I'm not making it into a quilt. So it, really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. but that's just something, an option that you can do. So one thing that Missouri Star Quilt Company's tutorial had a little tip. So when I, lay out my first strip on this paper, I just lay it on there and then lay another one on top. You can, if you're using foundation paper, and even if you're using fabric, really, you can glue it down if you want to make sure it stays in place. Not necessary. You could even pin it if you wanted to. I just kind of put it on there and hold it down. But what she did is, like when I would add a strip, I would go to my iron, which is like right next to my sewing machine. It's not like I have to get up or anything, and iron that piece back. But what she did is she sewed one on this side and then sewed one on this side before she went to iron, and then she was ironing both of them the same. A little bit of a time saver. So, but there are plenty of tutorials out there on FlossTube. Basically, you just want to decide what size square you want, and cut your foundation paper or fabric, muslin fabric. I just left mine the size that I have them. Now, the Prairie Point quilt shop, they did trim theirs down like a half of an inch from what their foundation was. I don't think they did that on Missouri Star. They just, turned it over and, trimmed it according to the size of the sheet. So that's a couple of little just info on that, but there's not really, there are probably patterns out there for some of the more intricate ones. Like they have some that will, like you'll have a black or a white solid like star shape. Not really star shape, but more of a diamond shape in the middle of them. So, those can get a little bit more, involved. So there may be patterns. I want to say maybe Prairie Point Quilt Shop, which I will link both of these tutorials below, but I want to say that they said on their video that they would have a pattern that you could download in the description box on their video. One other thing to mention, like this, I'm using a honey bun to do this. They're all 1.5 inch strips, but you can use any strips that you have left in your stash. And even like I didn't think about this, but like the corners right here, if you have leftover half square triangles, you can use those to do the corners. But you can also use different widths, like anything from 1 1/4 to 2.5 inches is usually, a good range. And if you do different widths, it gives it a little bit more interest than what I have in mine. But regardless, they're not supposed to match up. They, none of the seams are going to match up, so it's very forgiving, and that's part of the charm of it. So I hope that answers your question. I believe it was Ann that asked that question, and I will respond on your comment as well. So I did have a few pieces of haul. I've had this for a few days and just kept forgetting to show it. So this is the 11 of 12 from the Prim Stitch series, which is by Lori Holt. Isn't that so cute? I love that little cake stand and the pears, and oh goodness, just so cute. So that came in, and then a while back I had ordered the Pink Sparrow sampler from a company online. It's from Ye Old CrossStitch Supply Company, something like that. So I ordered the pattern, all the threads, and the fabric that's called for. The fabric was back ordered with this shop, as well as with the threads. So I did reach out to them recently and said, do you have a status update on that? And she said that she didn't. She said she might have know something later that day. When she got her shipment in, it's both from Weeks Dye Works, I believe. No, it's two different companies of floss, and then Weeks Dye Works is the fabric. Anyway, I never heard back from her. So not that I'm like thinking that I'm going to start this anytime soon, but I'm like, I want to have all my pieces together and kit it up so that when I want to start it, I can. So a while back, I had went into Patches and Stitches, which is one of my LNS's general area of me in Huntsville, and asked them to order Brenda Gervais Jelly Bean Jubilee. And the girl took the information down, and I never heard back. So I called, and the woman that answered was one of the more regular workers there. She said that they cannot get an answer from Brenda Gervais to do orders. So I went ahead and went online to Etsy and ordered this from Hollis Hands Creates. Hollis Hands Create. It's a shop on Etsy. So I got this little pattern, which I've been wanting. So cute. I've seen so many people stitching these, and they're just adorable. And so while I was there, I looked in their other items, and they had the 2 flosses that I needed. It was 2 skeins of Gentle Art Piney Woods, and then 1 skein of Pecan from Weeks Dye Works. They also had the called for fabric. I want to say that the pattern calls for 30 count. This is 32 count Weeks Dye Works parchment. So I was okay with doing a smaller count. Let's see. Yes, she calls for 30 count. So mine will come out a little smaller. And then they also had a piece of 32 count Weeks in the color Sanguine, which I've talked about before on here, how much I love it and always just want a piece. I know that there's a couple of things in one of the Blackbird books that I have that calls for that fabric. So now I have those. So, and that was a, pretty smooth transaction with them. That was the first time I'd ordered from Hollis Hands Create. It did take a little while for them to ship, but, not very long, and it was fine. So, okay. So I did say on last video that I was going to share some little tidbits of information on CrossStitch and our mental health. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I am following along with the 614 Stitcher to do a mental health care SAL for May. And so I've just printed out some information. I will have the links below to where I got all of this information from. And I was just going to read a couple of just little snippets. So this is talking about the mental health benefits of CrossStitch. And this is from CrossStitchSupplies.co.za. So they talk about stress reduction and how it's a busy go, 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 go world, family, work, lack of work, school, can all be just overwhelming and very demanding. So they talk about how CrossStitch just allows us to sit back and just breathe, to just chill. You can stitch alone or in a small group, and you can feel the stress disappear. With the caveat, unless you're using metallic thread, right? I don't use a whole lot of metallics, but I have in the past, and I know how frustrating that can be. But they said that one person mentioned that when I cross stitch, I don't have to please anyone but myself. So, isn't that just a really cool thought? I know that we get these things in our head that says, like there's a cross stitch police, or that we, have to make it perfectly. We don't. There is no cross stitch police. If you're able to fudge a pattern, if you make a mistake, fudge it and go on. Don't let it stress you out, because the only person you have to please when you're cross stitching is you. So that's a little food for thought. Okay, let's get to the stitching. So I did work on quilting yesterday. So the Sew in Love little baby quilt that I'm going to make, I worked on some of these little squares. You can see how small they end up being. I think the reason why I chose this pattern is I felt like I had enough of the fabrics to do this particular block in multiples of 16. So it's just small and it's going to take a while. And then I also finished piecing my Coriander Christmas quilt block. This is block number 9 of 12. So we are getting close. I did have some issues sewing these rows together. I had to unpick one and re-sew it. But, you know, when you're looking, and it's still not quite right, but when you're looking at it from this far back, you can't see it. And when it's in the whole quilt, you won't be able to see it. So one of the groups that I'm in on Facebook for Sarah Filkey's Block of the Month from a few years ago, someone had posted that they were putting their Simple Folk quilt together, and how they were, you know, in tears because none of the points were matching up, and they had, you know, undid and redid, and, you know, she was just asking for some encouragement, you know, and I just responded and said, you know, that I could definitely commiserate. Like, I'm so often just like so disappointed in the way my things come out. And I don't know why I can't take my own advice, which is to, you know, nobody's going to see it. It looks great. If you step back 5 feet and can't see it, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to notice it. But for some reason, we get so zoomed in on what we're doing and looking at it and nitpicking it, that it can take the joy out of it. So, you know, I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to anybody else. So, just try to remember that, you know, not to be so critical of ourselves. If someone else makes it and we look at it, we just see the beauty of it, right? But when we do it, we just see the mistakes and the little quirks or the errors, quote unquote. I did have a message come to me yesterday after my video from last week uploaded, and somebody bought my project bag. So you know who you are. She's a regular viewer and commenter, and I appreciate all of her encouragement on every video. And appreciate her, you know, supporting me and buying my bags. So I will get that in the mail to her today. So cross stitching. So yesterday was Timely Tuesday, and these are pieces that I do that I feel like I want to kind of get them done, or they have a deadline. And this, I would really like to have it done before the end of summer. This is the Chock Full Bloom, and I'm working on the jar piece. I was in the club that Fat Quarter Shop did, and so it's on 14 count chalkboard black Ada, using the called for fancy flosses. It lives in my So Much to Love project bag. And so I worked last night on outlining the bow down here, and then I started filling in some of the white and then some of the jar down here at the bottom. So I've got, looks like just a few more flowers to do. You know, there's some flowers down here. I need to do the center of this one, and there's a small one down here, and then fill in the jar, and that will be done. So I've finished my my June calendar already, so I may make this my every Tuesday this month piece. Even though the wheel didn't choose that every Tuesday, I think I'm going to keep stitching on that so that I can try to get it finished. So I did stitch some more on Jessie Watson. For the Jessie Watson Autism SAL. And so I did another quadruplets of letters, and then did some more on the dividers. I love this. I love stitching on it, and I want to say that this is going to be my first traditional sampler. Like I have the Bluebird Lives Simply sampler that I did did last year, but it wasn't like a sampler in the traditional sense of like having an alphabet and things like that. So this is the first one that I'm, I know in a year I'll be finished with that because the sal's going on for a year. And so that'll probably be the first one that I get done. Looking for my tablet, and hang on one second. So for my mental health care sal that I'm doing with 614 Stitcher, I worked on my piece that I'm stitching for that last night. And let's see. It's a pattern that's over several, the picture of it is over several pages, so you can't see the whole thing. Okay. But this is the part of it that you can see on the first page there. So it says, it's okay not to be okay. And that is from the World of CrossStitch, May of 2019. And so I got the K finished and started working on the O. I love this piece. I love the colors. I'm so happy with the fabric that I dyed for it. It cheers me up when I work on it, really. I mean, these are the DMC called for. I mean, come on, y'all. Like, I love pink and purple are my two favorite colors, but put them in with turquoise and aquas, and I just love it. I mean, I just love it. Can I do every single pattern I do in these colors, please? Gorgeous. So there's several in this this magazine article. These are by Emma Congdon, and so there's several different designs focused on mental health awareness. So if I get done with this before the end of the month, then I'll pick another one to work on. And then I did work again on my daily piece, which is Elizabeth Weston, and got this little piece right here done. I think this, like, part of the motif was on page 2, and then part of it went on to page 3. So I didn't fill in these little white pieces because technically it was part of the next page. So, if I get to the edge of a page, I will keep going if I have thread left. And then if I had, it took me a while to get this little leaf done, and so it was getting late, and I just got tired of working on it, so I didn't do the little white pieces. So that's what I got done yesterday. Today I am planning to do some more quilting. I'm probably going to try to put another 4 string blocks together and make another bag. And this time I'll try doing it where I can quilt all 3 layers of the front and the back of the bag. Because I wasn't able to do that on last one, but I'm gonna try to this time. This video was almost 30 minutes long for one little snippet. Okay, guys, I will see y'all next time. Bye. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Thursday, May the 12th, and I'm on here to hopefully do a quick update. I was a busy bee yesterday afternoon, though, so we'll see how fast I can get this done. I have a massage appointment, and then our stitching group meets tonight. So massage appointment days, it's always minimal makeup, minimal jewelry, just because I don't want to have to worry about any of that while I'm on the massage table. So I have no idea what that blue light was that was shining down on me yesterday in yesterday's vlog. I could not see that when I was filming at all, so I have no idea what that was. So it may have been I turned on the light that goes with that live streaming kit that my daughter gave me, so I don't know if that was causing that. But I mean, it was way, away from me, and I just had it on just to shed more light on here. I didn't even point it at me because it made too much glare on my glasses, so that's an issue, really. The glare on the glasses as far as having lighting going. So got a bit of a headache going this morning. So I did want to let y'all know that I did a blog post and uploaded it this morning. After my video yesterday, I just sort of kept thinking about, how critical we are of our own work. And so I did a little blog post. The title of it is The Killjoy of Self-Criticism. So be sure to look down on the description box below where my blog information is listed and go check that out and comment on it too. Just tell me how you deal with disappointment and discouragement in your crafting life. Okay, so yesterday I did do some quilting, but before I started quilting, I did cut out a bunch of, bunch of foam core boards out to use as design boards. I'm using them more and more when I do my videos. And I haven't been lately because I've been doing more quilting, so I've been using those for quilting blocks. And so I want to have some that I can use for putting my whips on and for my quilt block stuff. So I did cut a bunch of these out yesterday and get all the batting glued to them. I was only able to get binding on one of them yesterday, but I will keep working on those the rest of this week. I did, when I had some little bitty pieces of foam core left, I cut some small ones and then cut out some felt. I feel like felt works a little bit better as far as a thread board goes for cross-stitch projects. So I'm going to fix those up. The batting just seems to, I don't know, it has more fibers that want to come up on it. So I think the felt works better. So I did cut out some pieces for the Mai Tai quilt. So the little charm packs get cut into 2 rectangles from it. And so I cut those out. I haven't cut any of the background out yet. But when I cut those out, I had a bunch of these little pieces left on the edge of the charm squares. These are not needed for the pattern. So I'm so obsessed right now with string quilts. I was like, how small of a block would this make? So it makes about a 3-inch little block. How cute is that? So I started cutting out graph paper and got all these little strips, and I'll use it as leaders and enders and make some project bags with that. I did also finish piecing together this Sew and Love block for the little baby quilt. And this is why I don't do scrappy, because I'll drive myself crazy with like this fabric is touching itself in too many places on here, and I can make myself insane. Same right here. I can make myself insane trying to rearrange it all kind of different ways, and it's like, just stop, just let it go, just put it together and don't worry about it. So I had to just let it go, and I'm sure that once I get all of the blocks pieced together and it's all ready to go, it won't matter. So while I was doing that, I did, leaders and enders to make another one of these string blocks. I still have a lot of that fabric to go, but I am getting near the end of it. And then I had one that I had already started. I finished it up, and I was able to piece 4 of them together. So this will make another, probably a project bag. I could also do like a pillow cover with it. So that's, several options of things that I can make with it. So I also spent about 15 minutes stitching on my, quilting on my Project Linus quilt. I did hand quilt my daughter's quilt that I'm working on. There's no way I'm going to finish that by October. I mean, I hope I could, but I just don't work on it every day, and, it's just slow going. So, but anyway, I did work on those 2 things as well. So I haven't, as of yet this week, I've got too much stuff everywhere. I haven't this week yet worked on my weekly focus piece, but I did work on it last night. And that is Teresa Kogut's Newcastle Bouquet. Let me grab the pattern. This is her pattern. I'm stitching this on a piece of 36 count linen that was hand dyed by Devin of Strawberry Lane. And so last night I just worked and did these 3. They sort of look like crowns to me, these flower crowns. So I worked on those while I was watching Death in Paradise. That lives in one of the project bags that I made a while back. And these are the flosses that I'm using. Some are called for, some I had to substitute because I couldn't find them. Couldn't find the call for in several of those greens. So that's my weekly focus piece that finally got some love this week. And then my daily piece, Elizabeth Weston, I stitched on it last night. I had just a small section that needed completion to keep me on track with finishing this second page in this month. And so the only thing I had to stitch was this little white part right there. That was on page 2, but it was in day 9. So, or not day 9, part 9. Some of the parts I'm taking longer than a day to finish. And then I also stitched on my Jessie Watson SAL. Jessie Watson Autism SAL piece. So I put in the E and the F, the R and the S, and did some more on the dividers. And then yesterday was Wordy Wednesday. And the wheel had chosen another pattern, but I did decide to keep working on the bloom jar. because I really would like to get this finished soon. So my categories that I use, you know, most patterns will fit into several different categories. And so like this one would also fit in my Friday theme, which is flora, fauna, and filigree, and then it would also fit in my seasonal Saturday theme. So I could get, you know, 4 days total stitching on this, you know, just following my topics. So cute, so pretty. I love the red jar. And then I also stitched a little bit on my It's Okay Not to Be Okay, my mental health care SAL piece. So I was able to finish the O and came and did this little flower right here. I came over here and filled in the K, started on the darker part of the O. The K has some little stitches in another color that I haven't done yet, but I love the colors on this one so much. So that's what I stitched on yesterday. I had a good, productive day. Of course, didn't get as much as I wanted to get done. When I got ready to start cutting out the Mai Tai quilt pieces, the same way that I have a project log for my CrossStitch, I also have one for my quilting projects. And somehow I have deleted that form off my computer. So a while back, I was doing a talk at our quilt show here in Rogersville, and it was on how to organize a quilt project, organize and plan. And so I had gone online to Etsy and purchased maybe 1 or 2 different quilt planners. I also had a patchwork planner that I bought years ago. I've also used the quilter's planner in the past, but I bought one on Etsy that I printed some pages out from yesterday, just because I wasn't in the mood to like totally recreate my form at this point. But so I had to go on and print that out too, because I just like to have, you know, I like to have a project log that shows me the steps that I need to do, and I kind of give myself deadlines. Hang on one second. So I'll link this journal below. But this is sort of what I'm talking about for my timeline. So this is on the Mai Tai quilt. And so, you know, these are the due dates of when I want to have, you know, this bottom one done. This is the date that I want to have it finished quilting by. And so I just go backwards, you know, from the end date of when I need to have it done, and I work myself up to the top. So I'm ahead of where, you know, I need to be time-wise, but that's okay, because if for some reason I have a migraine and I can't stitch one day or whatever, it gives me some wiggle room, but it also gives me a goal to keep myself on track. This particular journal had quite a few pages on each project. I didn't feel like I needed all of them, but they were also like planning. Well, I did print out the layout, but there were several other pages. I just printed out 4 of them, front and back. And so, you know, you can check off how you're doing it, what quilting design you use, who quilted if you don't quilt it. Then if you need to, you know, do some diagrams of a layout, there's a layout. And then there's a materials page. And I haven't filled this out yet, but I will usually fill that out so that I know what I used on it. especially things that are going to take months and months, because sometimes I'll start piecing something, put it away for months, and then go back and go, okay, what thread did I use on this? So that gives me a place to keep all of my notes. And if I make any changes to it or anything like that, I'm not sure. I may have enough blocks, enough fabric to make more blocks than what the smaller size quilt calls for. So hopefully I will. I can make it a little bit bigger. It's a little narrow, so hopefully I can make it a little bit bigger. But that's all I've got. Trying to keep this short and it's just not working. I may skip tomorrow and then not do again until Saturday. I don't know. I'm always concerned that my videos end up being too long. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good day stitching, and I will see you for my next update. Bye. Everybody, today is Sunday, May the 16th, and I am here to close out my week. We did have our stitching group meeting on Thursday, and that went really well. Before the meeting, I did go to the local quilt shop, Calico Rose, and checked with Miss Betty, the owner there, to see if we could have our meetings there, and she said that we could. So from here on out, our meetings will be in a quilt shop. So I'm excited about that. So my grandson's tryouts, he thinks they went well. He said that on Friday they did like 2 scrimmages, I guess, and he said that he was chosen, to be starters in each one of those. So he took that as a good sign. Last night we went over to Kimberly and Dwayne's and had supper there, so that was a nice little outing with some good food. So yesterday and I haven't filmed in a couple of days, so I don't know what happened when, but I do know that yesterday all I did was work on finishing this stack of design boards and thread boards, like these little bitty ones. I'll use them in cross-stitch projects, probably some of these also. But yeah, and that was just leftover quilt bindings that I had from old projects, so got rid of a bunch of that stuff. So on Thursday when I went to our group, I brought my little travel stitching piece that I don't have to count on. And that's the Homegrown. From Fat Quarter Shop. They're stitched quarterly. This was their very first one. And that's what it'll look like. So I brought that and just got a little bit more of the M filled in at our meeting on Thursday. And then I also stitched some the last couple of days on my mental health, healthcare stitch along piece. It's okay not to be okay. So I finished the O, added this little motif, and then started on the E last night. And I have been stitching the last couple of days on the Shine On sampler. These are just a lot of stitching, so I'm supposed to be like on the next, there's a set of motifs right here that's supposed to be completed by the 19th, I believe. So I may move on to those and then just come back and fill in these as I go along. Just stitch, put one thread in each one of these little pieces while I'm stitching the rest of it. And I don't think I've shown this yet this week, so this is a 28 count even weave using the called for Cosmo flosses, 2 strands over 2 threads. I love it. It's so colorful and pretty. So I did that. Oops. I've also, the beginning of the week, I didn't really stitch on my weekly focus piece, but toward the end of the week, I did get some stitching time in on Newcastle Bouquet. And so when I was stitching night before last, I just went ahead and went all the way down to the very bottom on that border. And there's some spots where I've only got one leg of the cross. I have to go back and do the second leg. Such a pretty, pretty piece. And then I've worked some on Elizabeth Weston every day. I think I'm a little bit behind on where I want it to be on her, but each piece is really small. Each part that I divided it up into is really small, so sorry, I'm struggling. But anyway, I got this stem all the way done and then started doing the little branches and then this little motif, doing some more on it. So it's looking so pretty. And I love that I'm stitching on it every day. And then before I started stitching on Shine On, I did do a little bit more on Jessie Watson. Got some more of the letters in and some more of the band, and then a little bit more on this inner border. So if this is your first time watching, I did decide over the last couple of weeks to start doing my sows in a rotation. So I still have more to do on Jessie Watson, and I'll stitch on that later toward the end of the month. Fat Quarter Shop Serendipity did release a new pattern on yesterday, so I will be stitching on that over the next couple of days. I have it through Monday, but it's probably gonna take me longer because I didn't stitch on it at all yesterday. I also haven't been really stitching on my magazine monthly challenge pieces. 2 reasons. I just really have been stitching a lot of other stuff, and the one that I wrote down, I wasn't feeling stitching on it. So this coming week, I'm supposed to stitch on the little snowman, the little Let It Snow, and then start the seasons that's in Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher that the blue flower has. So I didn't talk about the quilt on the wall behind me. So I did finish quilting my Project Linus piece. This was the mystery quilt from year before last. It usually starts in the fall, so it must have been fall of 2019. But I got it done quilting, and I'll trim it this week and get the binding on it. I've just been trying to spend, 15 minutes every day doing something on Project Linus. So I don't always get to do any on it, but most days I do. I did have to go to town like 2 days in a row this week, and so it just always kind of throws off everything. So when I was at Calico Rose, Miss Betty showed me some of her goodies that she's got. And so I did make a couple of purchases. She had these beautiful scissors in that kind of bronzy rose gold. They call it antique copper, antique copper. So got those. And then we were looking at linens, and she had a lot of pretty different linens and luganas and stuff. And I was just sort of trying to think of what I had, what were some things that I needed fabric for to kit up. So I just pulled up my Xstitch app and started looking at stuff. And she had this piece of Weeks Dye Works tin roof, which is this pretty green with some blue modeling in it. I don't think you can really see the blue very much, but trust me, it has blue in it. So when I was looking through my Xstitch app, I saw this Satsuma Street pattern that I purchased earlier this year. Their egg hunt. So they call for Weeks Dye Works Scuppernong. But I thought this was a very, very close match. I just love all those colors and everything. So now I'm like, when are you going to kit that up and start it? I have too many other things going. I need to finish some stuff. And then at our stitching group meeting, we usually do a little, or bring stuff that we want to pass the stash, or in this case, my friend Diane had purchased 2 of these charts by mistake, and so she was offering it for whoever wanted to buy it. And so when she started pulling it out of her bag and I saw what it was, I was like, oh my God. And so the other 2 ladies that were there, they were like, I think you want it more than anybody. So this is what it is. So excited. So the project in this book that I'm like really, really, really wanting to do is the Summer Jubilee. So pretty. But I also, there's, let's see, get to the colored pictures. That's really cute. And then this right here would be good for a guy for Father's Day or birthday, whatever. My little grandson Malachi went fishing on Friday and he caught the biggest catch of the day. So he was excited. And that's so cute too. So a lot of pretty things in that book. So I definitely claimed it as my own. That's it. That's all I've done the last couple of days. I did want to say the other day when I was showing you the printables from Etsy, that's another thing that I have an idea of things that I would like to do, like, home-based business type things, because I love making organizers and forms and stuff like that. So it probably would require me to make an investment in some software, but that's another idea of things that of something that I would like to possibly do to earn money. So plans for this coming week, I'm going to pick up that Let It Snow, work on Serendipity. My weekly focus piece this week is supposed to be the Shannon Christine craft room. I may make it the bloom jar. I may change that because I really want to try to get that finished this month. I would like to get it finished this month so that I can FFO it. I'll do some more on Jessie Watson, and then toward the end of the week I'll do Shine On again. So that's what I got for you guys this week. I hope you have a good week ahead, and I will see you on my next update. Take care, everybody, and happy stitching.